The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good day to everyone, and thank you very much for joining us for this very last webinar on the series of the Reappearance of the Christ. So folks, before we start, let's do a little visualization so that we can be really receptive to DK's energy. So close your eyes and take a very comfortable position as we raise our consciousness as high in the head as you can. Then try to hold steady in the light. Becoming absolutely still. And realize that DK, on the inner side, he's also standing ready and steady, pouring out upon us his love and strength, and endeavoring to lift us up into a much higher state of consciousness. Then visualize just ahead of us a disc or a sphere of indigo blue, a deep electric blue. Then imagine DK standing in the center of that disc, waiting, absolutely still. Then see a band of golden light between us and the disc, gradually shortening, thus bringing us closer together, closer, closer, and closer, until we enter into the heart of the blue disc. And let us sound one Om on the note of love, G, so that we can bring down that energy of closeness between DK and us. So a very quick review of what we did in the first two webinars. In the first one, we asked very general questions. Is the Christ coming? Why is he coming? When was this decision made? And why did he decide to come? Then in the second one, once we've established that he was coming, excuse me, then we explored his experience in the Garden of Gethsemane, his contact with the Father, which was a very important experience for Christ. Then we explored world conditions and how are they different, and the challenges that Christ is facing. Then we explored three very important events since he made this decision in 1945. Then we looked at the nature of his work. So today, in the last webinar, we will look at what will he be teaching, and then we will explore the new world religion which he will be inaugurating. So what did he impart in Palestine 2,000 years ago? One, that we were all sons of God in the very same sense as he was. He wasn't just divine, but he was also human, just like us. And that after him, people will do even greater things than he had done, because we were all divine. And the system of service, such as a mode of establishing the right human relations, not only to our Father, but to one another. And he exemplified that in the washing of the feet of his disciples. So then, what will he be teaching this time round? There are 4 things that he will be focusing on. He will be establishing the right human relations. He will teach the law of rebirth. He will reveal the mysteries of initiation, and he will dispel glamour. Remembering last webinar, we said that above all, he came to reveal the nature of the will of God. Just like 2,000 years ago, he revealed the love of God. So will, divinely expressed, will be the theme of that world religion. He came to embody the will and to synthesize the 3 aspects of divinity: light, 3rd aspect; love, 2nd aspect; and will, 1st aspect. Synthesize these 3 in one stream of energy. So let's take one teaching at a time: the establishing of right human relations. The main effect of his appearance is to demonstrate that spirit of inclusiveness. He will yield what DK calls the cleaving sword of spirit. And if you remember, he will come to reveal the will of God. So the cleaving sword of spirit, he will be yielding it with all his might. So through this, through distributing spirit, he will attract all those who see absolutely no difference between nations or religions or people, and all those whose heart are stimulated, are responding to his love. And through this spirit of the sword of spirit, the spirit of exclusiveness and hate and separativeness will stand automatically revealed. And people will know instinctively, intuitively, right or wrong. These issues will be made very clear. And I think that today we are starting to see this very, very clearly. And because now we are seeing through pharmaceutical companies, we are seeing through corporate organizations, in politics, we are seeing these issues very clearly. But the interesting thing is that that cleaving sword of spirit will bring revelation, but without wounding. All it will do is will make the issues clearer. And therefore, standing as the focal point of that inner triangle between the avatar of synthesis, the Buddha, and the spirit of peace, Christ therefore will let loose on earth the potency and the distinctive energy of intuitive love, of will to good. And it will make the distinction between good and evil so clear in men's mind that they will have no choice but choosing the right decisions. And so the results of this outpouring of excuse me, Buddhi focus through the Christ and his disciples when they will walk the earth will be so potent and so great that the usefulness, the practicality, the naturalness of right human relations will become so evident on earth that the world affairs will be rapidly adjusted, and that new era of goodwill and peace will be inaugurated on earth. And as he presents this true livingness that he is going to demonstrate, there will be no room for exclusiveness or separateness or hate, because this life abundantly, this will to good, this intuitive love which he is going to channel, is like a free and flowing current which will sweep away hate, obstructions, barriers, and will reveal this essential quality of love. The second teaching is the law of rebirth. If the goal of right human relations is to be taught by the Christ, then the emphasis of his teaching must be on the law of rebirth. The right human relations with God and with one another, to make people understand that reincarnation occurs to just redress human relations, not only the transgressions towards their relation with God, but transgressions towards one another, and will make us understand and therefore improve and address the mistakes that are being made. So as the life of God progresses onwards from form to form, that life from the subhuman kingdoms as the mineral kingdom progressively proceeds into vegetable kingdoms, and from there into the animal kingdom, and from there into the human kingdom. And then we become subject to the law of rebirth. And it is not the law of transmigration, which we're going to see in a minute. So it is important and absolutely imperative that we understand what the law of rebirth is all about. Because then we will see that this law of transmigration that came to us from the East is totally ridiculous in its nature. So the law of rebirth is not to be confused with the law of the transmigration of souls, right? The life of God goes from a lower form to a higher form, and not from a higher form to a lower form. So it is not the passing of energy or the soul from a human being back down into bodies of or lower forms of nature. Because the transmigration of soul is a belief in which the soul passes from one body to another, that is, going back from the human to the animal. And this is not the law of rebirth. So we have to be very clear on that. And therefore, that law of rebirth will be one of the keynotes of the world religions. And once we understand this law, then the solution to our problems will basically disappear, and that will answer many of our questions. Previous teachings 2,000 years ago, Christ taught that man had a soul and taught the value of the individual, that he could be saved by the life of the soul and the Christ within. But this time at his return, he will teach them how they can perfect themselves. That is through the constant returning of the soul. The soul is immortal. He will go from one life to another, and he will come to redress his previous mistakes, not to punish him, but so that he can be clearer on where his mistakes lie. And for those of you who are more versed in astrology, Saturn in one's natal chart really reveals where we are vulnerable, where the teaching, or rather the learning, needs to take place. So the position, the placement of Saturn tells us where we went wrong in previous lives and how we can redress it. So here are some facts about reincarnation that DK tells us that the new group of world servers, which is us, not only we should understand, but we should be able to pass on that information and that understanding to others. That the law of rebirth is a great natural law on our planet. It is conditioned by the law of cause and effect, or the law of karma. That it is a process of progressive development, enabling humanity to move forward from the grossest forms of unthinking materialism to spiritual perfection. 4, it will account for the differences among men. It will account for differences in circumstances, in attitudes to life, and the lessons that we have to learn in life. That we are placed in circumstances in the country that we've chosen for specific reasons, not by chance. 5, the law of rebirth is an expression of the will aspect of the soul, not the result of any form, any decision made by the personality. It is the soul in all forms which reincarnates, choosing and building suitable physical, emotional, and mental vehicles through which to learn specific needed lessons. And 6, the incarnation is motivated and directed from the soul level upon the mental plane. And 7, that souls we come as a group, psychically. As we all know, we all belong to a particular ashram, whether it's the 7th ashram or 7th ray ashram or 5th ray ashram or 1st ray ashram. We come as a group of souls to achieve certain ends, certain purposes of our ashram, and also to achieve right human relations with our maker, because we come here to contribute something to the evolution of humanity as souls. Under the law of rebirth, man slowly develops mind, which then controls the astral nature, the emotional nature, and finally the soul is revealed. And then man begins to reverse the process, to tread the path of return and orient itself to the soul after many, many lives. Until finally, man asks, after he's learned that he has nothing for himself, he has completely renounced desire for life in the 3 lower worlds, then he is free from the law of rebirth. So when Christ reappears, our knowledge will be truer. will be more realistic. We will know for sure, intuitively, that we are related to one another as souls, that we are immortals in our essence, immortal in our essence, and that we have a definite relationship with those who reincarnate with us, not only as our members of our family, but also as colleagues, as colleagues in whether it's at work or in other interest of ours. That we are learning lessons as a group, and that we are experiencing and experimenting with one another, certain combination of rays of energies coming together. That our difficulties and all our problems then are caused when we do not recognize this fundamental law of rebirth and all the responsibilities and the obligations that come with it. And finally, concluding this aspect of the teaching of law of rebirth is that law, or rather that the understanding of that law embodies that practical knowledge that humanity needs today so that we can behave rightly and correctly, so that we can conduct ourselves properly and in the right way in our religious life, in our political life, in our economic life, in our life within our community and within our private lives. And therefore we can establish that right relation with that divine life, that soul within each and every single one of us and in the world around us. Thirdly, third type of teaching is the revelation of the mysteries of initiation. First of all, let us be clear about what initiation is not. Initiation is not a ceremony, is not an accolade, is not something that, you know, you receive on a piece of paper that you've bought for $2,000 or $5,000. Certainly not. And unfortunately, what's it called? Blavatsky's organization in the 1890s.
Theosophical Society?
Thank you. Thank you. The Theosophical Society has really skewed people in the wrong direction from that point of view. Right? They've emphasized that it is a ceremony, etc. But it is not. So what is then, if it is not a ceremony, what it is? Initiation is mainly an expansion of consciousness. And even the etymology of the word initiation, you initiate something, you start something. That is, it's a new way of looking at life. So in other words, you're entering a broader world because your consciousness is suddenly including realms that before you couldn't see. And that is due to the entering of the energies which are distinctive of the soul and the soul alone. And it's energies of intelligent love and of spiritual will. So that's basically the summary of what initiation is. An expansion of consciousness and the pouring in of the energies of the soul. And of course, because our vehicles are so impure, the energies of the soul cannot just pour suddenly, because its energies are so pure that it will completely decimate the form. So it has to be done gradually. First initiation, the control of the physical body. Second initiation, the control of the emotional body. And third initiation, the control or the pouring in into the mind. So really, initiation is the result of that experience of the livingness on 3 levels of awareness. As I said, physical, emotional, and mental, depending on which initiation that we are preparing for and that we are facing. And therefore, through that livingness, it brings into activity those cells of the brain, which then become more activated, more responsive to the higher impression. And therefore, through the development of a much more responsive apparatus, the mind then becomes the transmitter of the higher values and of spiritual understanding. So Christ's presence will speed up that man's response on all levels than at any other time in human history. How is he going to achieve this? If you remember, in the previous webinar, we talked about the nature of Christ's work as the dispenser of the water of life, which means that he will distribute the life aspect in its 3 aspects. One as physical life, therefore nourishing the cells of the body found within each atom of substance. That is, as you know, in each atom, there is a central nucleus which is made of buddhi, absolute will and love of the life itself of our Logos. So Christ will come and enhance and will nourish the jewel within each atom. So you can see already that the cells of the brain will become more enhanced. Therefore, that inner energy will be able to understand and absorb that, and more to the point, will be able to, because of its higher vibration, will be able to sustain the higher vibration of Christ's energy, or the energy of love. The second aspect is that livingness, which is seen as love and light within the heart. And the third aspect, that's for more advanced disciples, as light, love, and power, this time within and above the head of each disciple, therefore enabling each disciple to not only cooperate with humanity, it's the third aspect, the second aspect, spiritual hierarchy, but also the first aspect of divinity, Shambhala.
Nicole,
So, yes.
Yvonne has a question on reincarnation. What
Do you mind? Yes. Can we hold the questions until the end? Because it may very well be that as we progress, the answer might be answered. Do you mind? Thank you. Yeah. So, the time has come to restore these ancient mysteries. And the 3 main channels will be regarded as the Church, the Masonic fraternity, and the educational field. Through the Church, he will revive the Church in a new form, therefore restoring that hidden mystery which the churches have long lost throughout these years through its emphasis on materialism, or looking at Christ in or the teachings of Christ from a more materialistic point of view, and its emphasis on form. So the Church will regain this this mission will return to the truer values and stimulating the masses to express love, just like yeast rises, make bread rise, so too the churches will be like that yeast, stimulating the love aspect in the masses. The second is the Masonic movement for more advanced occultists who will restore the livingness in these ancient mysteries, and even or rather DK says that both churches and the Masonic movement have failed in their mission of imparting the true nature of men. So he will revive all of that. So through reviving the mysteries, he will reveal the secret of all these symbols in the Masonic teachings, which give the clue to the evolutionary process which is hidden in all these symbols and colors and rites. And they will also provide the answers or the teachings to men in order to progress to the next step, passing from darkness to light, so that we can progress smoothly towards the light. So these ancient mysteries are demonstrated in its temples. They are a training ground for advanced occultists, and through the comprehension of all its symbols and rites and colors, etc., men will be able to cooperate with a divine plan. And that meets the need of those who work on the first ray of will, but also on the seventh, because of the close relationship between ray 1 and ray 7. And the field is the educational field, and Christ will be able to reach the intelligent public who cannot be reached through symbolism and a ceremony as in Masonry, or by religious means and rituals as in the church. So he will reach particularly those on the third ray. So we can see that ray 1 and ray 7 people will be reached. Second, reached through Masonry. And ray 2 and ray 6 people through religion. And also, sorry, I forgot also, ray 4 through Masonry as well. Ray 3 people through education. And now, oops, I've been there. Where am I? Yep. So, and he will reach ray 5 people through the mystery of electricity. So that incentive, that urge to explore what we call the garment of God will be instigated, and men will understand. And already, this is happening already. The electricity has made huge progress in our lives. I don't know where we would be without electricity. So obviously there's more to come about electricity that will revolutionize the way that we live. And in healing too, in medicine, already we can see through the ECG, the understanding of electricity and the use in healing. But when the physical body will be fully realized as an electrical unit, and that the etheric body will be accepted by modern medical school, then that will be a complete revolution in healing in the mainstream. Planetary forces and energies upon which the life of the planet is dependent upon will also be revealed. And these energies, which we've got no idea at the moment, that are very closely related to psychic powers. At the moment, science and the general public, the skepticism, and the bad reputation too, that spiritualism and the emphasis on the phenomena has placed in the last couple of 100 years. But these discoveries will be very useful in the future. Also, when Christ comes, the understanding of death will be different. Our misconceptions about death and the afterlife will be completely revolutionized. Although DK has predicted that France, being a fifth-ray soul and a Piscean soul, France will prove the fact of the soul, will demonstrate the existence of the soul, and that will be a revolution in the way we look at death. Although again, this is already changing, because people now are talking about celebration of life. There is less sadness and mourning when people die now. They talk about the celebration of that life. The mysteries which each sign of the zodiac embodies will be clarified to us by the Christ. Again, there is already through the esoteric and the astrology organization everywhere, a start has been made through the full moon meditations held everywhere in the world. Nowadays, we equate happiness with material well-being, right? All we know is that the more and the better the cars, the houses, the electronics, the trips around the world, the happier we are. But we haven't learned the lesson that it is not true. But when Christ reappears, millions of people will go through one of the initiations, whether it's one, first, second, or third, or fourth. Then there will be a renunciation of the materialistic standards in life, which today controls us, very much so. Although, again, we see a return to a simpler life. People are moving to the country. They are fed up with cities, noise and pollution and all the rest of it. So healthier food is more emphasized. And there is a group called the Minimalist Movement. Two young blokes started this movement in America called the Minimalist Movement. Again, it's a war on waste, it's a war on accumulation of material things, and this has been quite popular. So we are making a huge start on all these issues. And the fourth one is the dispelling of glamour. What is glamour? Let's work that one out first. Glamour is the outstanding characteristics of the emotional plane. And the emotional plane very simply means the sum total of all our sentient reactions, our feeling responsiveness, and emotional states, which we have built really powerfully, and that we are the victim of. We are trapped in it, in that fog. So Christ is the great dispeller of that world glamour when he will be coming. But the Buddha has already made a beginning along that path, preparing the way for the Christ. And how did the Buddha prepare the way for the Christ? Through his teaching that the cause of all sorrow is the misuse of desire. And as you know, desire is the key word of that emotional field. Desire for material things that are transitory. And so the Buddha has taught us to look for the kingdom of souls. Desire for that which is not material. He has made a huge start on the astral plane. He has already dissipated a lot of glamour through the Buddhist teachings. And he was the very first one to have made that effort on a planetary level to dissipate world glamour. Because he focused in him that illumination which allowed people to see clearly that, yes, desire for material things are a big mistake. So Christ did the same thing on the mental plane when he manifested 2,000 years ago. And he was the one who made the very first planetary effort towards the dispelling of illusion. Illusion this time is, let's say, glamour, but this time on the mental plane. So within that world of illusion, Christ, the Lord of Love himself, made that very first planetary effort to dispel illusion by drawing to himself the hearts of all men. So these two brothers, the Christ and the Buddha's work, are gathering more and more momentum on earth, therefore dispelling illusion and dispelling glamour. So how will Christ therefore dispel glamour? Is when the energy of love will supersede the energies of personal desire and emotional love, and that free-flowing, that outgoing, that attractive force of love, which will bring every human being back to the Father's house. That force that stirs within the heart of humanity, which guide that mystic instinct in each and every one of us. It works through the objectives of all movements working for the welfare of humanity. In other words, that group momentum of the heart. This is how Christ will dispel glamour. And DK tells us that the moment that the hearts of men are active, responding to unconditional love, self-forgetfulness, working for the good of humanity, for the greater good, the moment people are responsive to that energy, then we will see the solar plexus activity being subsiding. And that is a statement of fact. We need to really realize that if it is true in an individual level, then it will be true on a world level as well. So Christ did say, if I be lifted up. I will draw all men unto me. So as he stimulates the hearts of men everywhere, he will lift humanity to a much higher state. So the results of that scientific work of the hearts of men, bringing them into closer rapport with the heart of God, then this is how he will enable men to free themselves from all delusion and emotional control. And that's how he will dispel glamour. And now, the New World Religion. This is what he's coming to inaugurate. And the origin of the New World Religion started on the inner plane when he stood in the center of that triangle and his Aquarian work started. And that work will continue for 2,500 years. So as a result of that decision of reappearance in June 1945, that's when the New World Religion was born, on the inner plane. And if you remember, in the previous webinars, we did say that he will be coming this time to reveal the will of God. And therefore, the will be the main theme of the coming world religion, as he synthesizes will with light and love. Spirituality, DK tells us, in spite of everything that we hear, that we see, is more alive than ever, because people everywhere are searching for spiritual release and truth. The church today is the tomb of Christ, because it doesn't quench men's thirst for truer values, because it has laid emphasis on their cathedrals, on ceremonies, on pomp, on the gold and the communion, silver and gold sets, on all the paraphernalia. Both Masonry and churches have failed in their mission because of their wrong emphasis. Learning symbols for the sake of symbols, but not really understanding what these symbols are actually expressing. But in the meantime, people are agonized, starved, suffered, and demanded health, and have lost faith in both of them. But people are looking for light everywhere. People are demanding teaching, spiritual help, along with a necessary request for foods, clothes, opportunity to work and live in freedom. So that we see large famine on a physical level, but also the famine of the soul. Humanity as a whole needs not just the Buddhists, not just the Hindus, not just the Christians, but the whole world, because Christ in hierarchy sees the planet, humanity as a whole. All those who love one another. Humanity is in desperate need, and that need today must be met. So Christ didn't come to destroy what was there, but he will build on their essentials. So the non-essentials will disappear, but the fundamental, the essentials of faith will remain. And that will be the foundation, the basis of his New World Religion. So what are these fundamentals? One, that the fact of God. Consciously and unconsciously, people sense that there is a creator. 2, this is man's relation to the Father or to the soul is a given. It is inherent in human consciousness. We are all children of God. We all know that instinctively. And lately, there has been an American biologist called Bruce Lipton, and he's written many books and given many talks. And if you go on the net, guys, you will see and you will hear, he's absolutely brilliant. He's written a book in particular, which launched this whole revolution, called The Biology of Belief. And there, in this book, he actually proves that the brain is wired to register divinity through his studies of human cells. And that the way that the cells function demonstrate the existence of God. So if you can listen to one of his talks, you will be blown away. So we are getting there. Thirdly, that the truth of the immortal soul, that we come again and again, lifetime after lifetime, to redress the mistakes, and that we are the controllers of our own destiny, because we make mistakes and we have the power to redress it. That whatever we sow in one life has to be reaped in the other. It's basic. And that there has never been any cycle or time or world period when spiritual help wasn't given when man demanded it. And that demand has been met. A savior, an avatar, a world teacher has always come from that divine center hierarchy and has given fresh teachings, renewed hope and incentive towards spiritual living. But churches have put the wrong emphasis. They have emphasized this unscrutable Father who looks dispassionately down on its creation. And that is so false. But what the New World religion will reveal is that God and man has got a much closer relationship, that God is not some onlooker, not outside, but he is within each form of all created, of all creations. So Christ will emphasize that in the New World religion, that the Father, having pervaded this whole entire universe with a fragment of himself, he remains. And we are God. We are part of that fragment. So this is what he will come to reveal. So we are going to appreciate the divinity of substance. We will recognize the fact that matter is the outer garment of God. And this will characterize that intellectual development of the Aryan race, Ray 5, through Aquarius. Very important realization. So the keynote of that New World religion will be that invocative work, that divine approach. Draw near to him and he will draw near to you. The theme of the New World Religion will be the recognition of the many divine approaches, that continuity of revelation, because it's just one teaching coming to us at different times, putting emphasis on different aspects. So the task ahead is to prepare humanity for the greatest of all approaches, which is a Christ and his disciples walking the earth one more time. And the method is that scientific and intelligent use of invocation and evocation and their tremendous potency. Just a few more slides, I will explain what we mean by that. There will be three kinds of invocation. Through the masses, the demand and unconsciously voice that crying appeal from the hearts of men in times of crisis. Two, there will be a middle group through their various religions as they participate in the rites of their religion. And then the third group, a more advanced group, skilled in invocation as practiced by disciples, using their minds through right meditation, right invocation, who work consciously and invoking hierarchy. So these three groups working either consciously or unconsciously, swinging into activity at this time. And the three groups will result in evocation. What that means is that the invocation and the thought of the new group of world servers and the thought of the masses is an ongoing stream of energy upwards towards spiritual beings. That's invocation. And evocation will be the spiritual beings responsive to that stream, that outgoing energy mounting to them. They can hear it. Then their evocation will be spiritual energy that they will respond. So invocation is the outgoing stream of energy upwards towards spiritual beings, and evocation will be the spiritual beings responding. It's a law of nature, a spiritual law. So it happens, it is a law. So here we have humanity invoking hierarchy, and hierarchy does respond. And on the other hand as well, hierarchy on the higher turn of the spiral invokes Shambhala, invoking the purpose of God, and Shambhala responds. So humanity and hierarchy uniting together, working in unity and complete at one-ment, then results in the evocation of these spiritual beings. And as a result of their downpouring energy, creating an increase in an expansion rather of human consciousness, and that will enable humanity three things: to grasp its relation with Shambhala, to grasp also the relation of our planet in relation to other planetary lives orbiting the sun, and to understand the influence of the 12 constellations of the zodiac and their effect on our solar system. And also, through all the religions coming together, strengthening our invocation, we will keep the same holy days so that there is an at-one-ment, a cohesion in our invocation. And we see already that certain major festivals in relation to the full moon is already on the way. But in the new world religion, there will be a greater cohesion. There will be a greater, what's the word that I'm looking for? At one-ment of all religions, keeping the same major festivals. Already we can see 3 major festivals: the festival of Easter, Wesak, and festival of goodwill. And these 3 major festivals emphasize the interrelation of the whole. It lifts the personal into the universal divine purpose and highlights the relationship of the whole to the part and the part to that whole. So therefore, these 3 major festivals that humanity, through these festivals, humanity invokes hierarchy, and hierarchy responds. And on the other hand, hierarchy does the same thing to Shambhala through these 3 major festivals. And therefore, God's plans, therefore, will be worked out on earth. And as to the remaining full moon, how will that contribute? It's the closer study of the influence of each constellation pouring certain energies, which will, I mean, they are important, but they are not as important as these 3 main festivals. And it's interesting that if we look at religion, the description, or rather the definition of religion, is the name given to that invocative appeal of humanity, and that therefore the evocation of that greater life to that cry that mounts from below. The origin, the etymology of the word religion comes from the word religare or ligare in Latin, meaning to bind man and God. So we can see already that the New World religion will be closer in the original meaning of the religion, which means bring man and God into closer relationship with one another. Nearly there, guys, and another few more slides. So the nucleus of the New World religion will be formed by those souls who are on the probationary path or on the path of discipleship. We will form the nucleus of that New World religion when we will be coming with the Christ again. Also, the same souls rather, that will incarnate, that were present in the days in Palestine, all those who knew him in his earlier incarnations as Krishna, or any other incarnations that he has had in the East. All those whom he cured or taught, who contacted him in some form or another, who have had karma with either him or Master Jesus. We will form the nucleus of that New World religion. Can you imagine that? Christ will come with all of us as his army, and we will be a formidable army, and evil will definitely be sealed. So therefore the conclusion is that there is only one church. God will work God works in many ways through many faiths and religions. And that new world religion will emphasize the essential doctrines, and therefore in their union will be the fullness of truth and the revival of the truer values. And that's what will be implemented when Christ and us, we will be coming. So then the living or the risen Christ, but not the newborn Christ or the crucified Christ, which will be the distinctive keynote of the New World Religion. It's the new living Christ which will be emphasized. Thank you, everyone. So now, Yvonne.
I actually framed something in the question box. Let me read it to you. I think it answers Yvonne's question. So back in the section, Christ will teach the law of rebirth, which starts on
Which slide again?
It starts on 13, but then proceeds for a few.
Yeah.
You mentioned that Saturn in the birth chart has particular significance, and it's something that we need to pay attention. So would you give some examples and guidance for individuals on how they might approach their Saturn placement with house and sign, and how it could be interpreted? For example, Saturn in Gemini in the 10th house.
Right, let's say, okay? Let's take this as an example. Saturn always tells us, Saturn, first of all, is the planet of karma, right? It tells us where we've made a mistake. So, for example, in Gemini, too much talking, not enough listening, or the other way around, could be too much, what did I say? Too much talking, or not, or too much listening and not talking enough. So it always tells us whether we've done too much of something or not enough of it, right? Now, in the 10th house, it will be in the field of society. So too much talking or too much putting the emphasis on the wrong thing, or teaching or learning the wrong things in terms of society. Let's take, let's say, in Cancer in the 2nd house. Cancer is all about vulnerability. So in Cancer, being too sensitive, too vulnerable, or maybe not enough, right? We are too thick. So we weren't sensitive enough to the emotional world. And in the 2nd house, so let's see how then Saturn in Cancer will help us to redress. So therefore, we will look at our lives and to see, okay, where was the emphasis? Maybe in the 2nd house, it was emphasis too much on the body, on the appetites of the body. That came first, sex, comfort, money, and all of that. So therefore, in this lifetime, we have to be a little bit more sensitive, not oversensitive, but just the right kind of sensitivity so that we can guide the mistakes of the past. That's basically it. So if we look at what the sign is telling us, so the mistake is either too much or too little, and therefore we redress that balance. This is what the sign tells us. And which area of our lives, and each house, as you know, the 2nd house, for example, is the physical body. The 3rd house is the mind. The 4th house is in family life, etc., etc., etc. So it tells us exactly in which area of our lives we made that mistake. So therefore, we learn a heck of a lot through the placement of Saturn. But I know I'm rushing through this, but there's a whole lot more that can be said through the of karma through our natal chart. There's Chiron as well. There's what's the other one? The lunar nodes also. The south node also tells us a little bit of the mistakes that we've made in the past. What we've become so familiar that it has become the prison of our soul in this lifetime. But then again, that's another other webinars.
So
Anything
I guess,
else, Joe?
Yvonne, does that answer your question adequately?
Is Yvonne there?
Okay, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Can you
Yes,
hear
we
me?
can.
Okay, yes, that did. I have another question, though. This was something else that you said. Having pervaded the whole universe with a fragment of myself, I remain, and humans
Yes.
are a fragment. My question is, we have human beings all over the universe, not only in this solar system?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course. Yes,
Okay.
humanity, that fourth, that middle hierarchy exists in the whole of the solar system, not just here. But here DK is talking about us humans. But you're quite right, and thank you for mentioning that point.
Thank you.
Yeah. That's it. Any insights? Any other insights that, again, folks, there's so much information. I mean, DK has written a whole book on it, and in 3 hours, it doesn't do it justice. So if you are truly interested in that topic, get yourself the book. It's only about 200 pages or so, but it is packed with insights, and you won't regret it. Any other insights, perhaps, or comments, or anything that you would like to share?
I'm not seeing any hands or questions at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, Joe, I think this webinar will be on Makara, won't it, Joe?
Well, first I will send it out to all the registrants in a special email with some links. And then we are going to have it up, all three up on Makara using the new Makara blog. And that'll be done probably in September, and you'll get a notification. I see that Iris has something. She asks, can you, Nicole, say anything about the United Nations, which is overshadowed by the avatar of synthesis, and who it is said will also overshadow the Christ?
The avatar of synthesis, did I understand you correctly? The avatar of synthesis is overshadowing the United States of America?
No, this is the United Nations. Why don't we open...
the United Nations.
Why don't we open Iris's mic?
Right. Yes?
You should be able... there she goes. Iris.
Hi, thank you so much, Nicole. I just wondered if you if you had any thoughts or insights into the role of the Christ reappearing and the connection as between the avatar of synthesis and also the fact the avatar of synthesis is also overshadowing the United Nations.
Well, the avatar of synthesis, because his energy is so, I wouldn't necessarily say pure, because pure doesn't describe it, so powerful, so potent that he can only work in groups. United Nations is all about bringing the nations together to think in sync, to think together as one for the good of the whole of humanity, not just one or two nations. He will definitely be overshadowing the Christ, and the Christ will be overshadowing, as I think we've mentioned also that the Christ will be working into the world of politics. If you remember, I think it was in the second webinar we mentioned that will be the field of the Christ as well. And politics and statesmanship and government is the realm of Ray 1, and avatar of synthesis really yields this the Ray 1 energy of power and will. So definitely the two of them together will be working to inspire and to stimulate the heads of government and of the United Nations to think of the whole of humanity, not just one country over the other. But it will be coming. I mean, at the moment, it's not a very powerful organization yet, because there are many factions within the United States that are pulling in different directions and are using their, or flexing their muscles, and using money perhaps to impress. No, that's not the word. To impose their will for the benefit of their country instead of the whole humanity. But it's coming. There's a whole new world waiting for us.
Nicole, Natalie and Sheldon had their hands up, and so I'm going to go with Natalie first.
Right, Natalie?
Okay. I've lost the words for my question, but one of the second question was about us being connected.
You've lost the thread.
There are seven solar systems.
Yes.
And it's happening on all of them, or all one. I haven't even got that into my brain. I've read it somewhere. DK says it somewhere. But getting it into my brain is new. So I just wanted to mention that.
Do you mean, because I haven't quite understood your question.
I lost it.
Let me phrase it. Yeah.
Because there wasn't time to put it down.
Right.
I lost it and I lost the words. So I'll go into that myself.
Did you mean
My
seven
question.
solar systems or the solar system? I can't even see the slide where I've got of the solar system now.
Sorry.
Is it this one? Is it this one, Natalie?
Oh.
And that one? or that one? When we mention the solar system?
Yes, 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 yes.
Right.
From our planet to the circle of planetary lives orbiting the sun. Now, I put the planetary lives in my brain is the world, our world, but it's all sorts of worlds as well.
Oh no, you're quite right.
Yeah.
You are quite right. That but initiation as such is an experiment that that our solar logos has initiated in its own solar system. But
yes,
yes, and it has happened on Venus, and now our logos has taken over this experiment, and we are halfway through. And another one is starting on another planet, which I believe is Mars. So,
yes, but that's what I'm talking about.
Right.
But I haven't got it. I hadn't got it. I read it, but I haven't got it. And I wanted to say that this webinar has revealed something to me. And thank you.
Right.
Some sort of expansion.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And we know, I mean, this is going a little bit even too far now, but we know that on Sirius, you know, the sun, Sirius, which is really the source of love, of cosmic love in our universe. There is also a series of initiation, because initiation is really, if you remember, is an expansion of consciousness, and consciousness is the second aspect of divinity. And this is what our solar system is working on. It is developing the unfoldment of that Christ consciousness within, the aspect of love within this second solar system. And so Sirius, the sun Sirius, is crucial in the development of the unfoldment of the soul. But then again, this is going way beyond.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
The mind boggles, doesn't it?
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, the mind boggles.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so we're good to go to Sheldon? Is that correct?
Yes, thank you.
Sheldon, you're on.
Well, I have nothing to say except what a wonderful presentation. You know, it's so comprehensive and so beautifully done. You know, so I feel like a broken record when I listen to this, but it is a beautiful summary. And thank you so much for this
thank you.
Great work.
Sheldon.
Okay, and
Thank you for your feedback.
We also have some other questions.
Mm-hmm.
Risa says, "Thank you, Nicole, for your comprehensive overview of the reappearance and the New World religion." And Yvonne, have all humans on the sacred planets in our solar system gone through all of the initiations?
Oh, I would imagine that they are way beyond us. Us meaning on Earth, definitely. Now, I don't know if the initiations on other planets, such as, let's say, Uranus or Neptune or whatever, DK doesn't tell us anything about the specifics of these initiations. But we do know that because Sirius is really the source of cosmic love in our solar system, there will definitely be initiations that are equivalent to those of the initiations on Sirius. And these are way, way beyond our own. And I used to know, but I've forgotten the specifics of when does our initiations on Earth represent the very first initiation. I think it's the 5th initiation. Look, don't quote me on that. And I'm not sure if I can pull up that this piece of information for you. Just bear with me a minute. Let me have a look. Initiations on, I think I made a tabulation. Where is this? And of course, now I'm going to look for it and I'm not going to find it. Let me look under tabulations, maybe. Oh, just a minute. There we go. Here, I think it's this one. I can't see the tabulation, but definitely there we go. Can you all see my screen there? Yes. Can you see that?
Yes.
Right. So yes. So the 5th initiation, our initiation here on Earth, is equivalent to the first initiation on Sirius. Now, can you imagine how what's the word that I'm looking for? How high a development one must be to achieve the very first initiation on Sirius. And our 4th initiation is the initiation on the threshold on Sirius. So these Sirian initiations are really high indeed. But the bulk of humanity, we are meant to be going to Sirius eventually. So we will all go through the 5th, the 6th, and the 7th initiation. When is that? We don't know. Maybe at the close of the of our solar system. But DK does tell us that the bulk of humanity, Christ, for example, is the Syrian candidate. So he's obviously gone, I don't know, 2nd, 3rd Syrian initiations, we don't know. But definitely he's a Syrian initiate. And this is why he's the head of our hierarchy. He is leading us onto that pathway, onto our road home. Maybe that's where we all come from. And it is said too that our solar angels come from Sirius. So maybe all our solar angels are gradually leading us to where home is. And then again, that needs to be investigated and meditated upon and pondered upon. I apologize for the lateness of the webinar. Any other insights or sharing of?
I'm not seeing any more hands raised. Oh, here's another question. Oh, Lyra says, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing your spiritual understandings, Nicole. Blue Lodge on Sirius is home base.
That's right. Because as you know, our hierarchy, our lodge, the White Lodge, is based on the Syrian Blue Lodge. It's the blueprint for the way our hierarchy functions. So definitely home is eventually, for the bulk of humanity anyway.
So I think you've answered all the questions, and there are no more hands having been raised.
So perhaps what we could do is we will close with an Om on the note G, on the note of love. And I would like to thank Joe and Michael on the technical side of it for your support. So I think on behalf of all of us, Joe and Michael, particularly Joe, who've been there month after month, and Michael has just taken over or is being trained to be on the technical side. So thank you, both of you, for being there and supporting us on the technical aspect of our webinar. And I thank all of you for joining us and sharing your insights and and for your contribution. And so let's close now with an Om. Thank you all. And thank you, Michael and Joe. And have a good month. We are still in the month of August, which Sirius rules. So may the light of Sirius enlighten your mind for the rest of the month and the rest of the year. Bye.